Most women won't tell you they're losing interest. They'll just feel it quietly, until you're forgotten. Here's the hard truth most men don't want to hear. Being too nice, too available, too eager, it doesn't win her over. It turns you into background noise. You try harder, text first, make time, give compliments, and she drifts further away. You wonder what went wrong. But the problem isn't her. It's the energy you're giving off. It's the way you're handing over all your power without even realizing it. You see, attraction doesn't grow from comfort. It grows from tension, uncertainty, the thrill of the unknown. And if you want a woman to think about you, crave you, even obsess over you, it's not about trying harder. It's about learning how to pull back, control the pace, and flip the dynamic entirely. That's where Stoicism gives you the edge. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to trigger obsession, not by pretending to be someone you're not, but by embodying the traits that naturally pull her in. These aren't games, they're principles. Once you understand the psychology behind her desire, you stop chasing, and she starts chasing you. Let's get into it. Number 1. Stop being too available. Here's the fastest way to kill a woman's interest. Make her feel like you have nothing else going on. Be the guy who texts back instantly, who always says yes, who drops everything the moment she calls. That energy, it's not romantic, it's needy, and it makes you predictable, invisible, forgettable. Let's be real, women don't chase what they already have full access to. They're drawn to what's valuable, and value is built on scarcity. That's not about playing games. It's about protecting your time, your focus, your energy. And when you give those away too easily, they lose meaning. Look at Mark, 55, a divorced small business owner from Ohio. He met Hannah, 51, through a friend. At first, everything clicked. But within a week, Mark was texting her good morning, checking in at lunch, and calling her every night. He thought he was showing consistency, but to her, it felt overwhelming, like he had no life outside her. 2 weeks later, she ghosted. The truth? Mark didn't do anything wrong, he just did too much, too fast, too often. And that made Hannah feel like she already had him. No mystery, no tension, no spark. Now imagine if Mark had taken his time, if he'd spaced out the conversations, focused on his business, his gym, his friends. If she had to wonder what he was doing, that gap would have created pull. That silence would have built curiosity. That unpredictability would have fed attraction. This is where most men get stuck. They think showing up constantly proves their commitment. But the reality, it often signals desperation. It says, I don't have anything more important than you. That might feel romantic in a movie, but in real life it's a repellent. Here's where Stoicism comes in. The Stoic man doesn't abandon his center to chase validation. He doesn't overextend just to feel needed. As Seneca wrote, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. When you're always available, you're silently craving approval, and that craving drains your power. Women pick up on this fast. When you're too available, they sense that your time isn't valuable because you don't treat it like it is. Now let's flip the script. What if you become a man who's busy building, creating, living? You're not ignoring her, you're prioritizing yourself. You return messages when you can, you meet when it fits, and you show up with grounded energy, not anxious energy. That's the difference. It tells her you don't need her, you choose her, and that subtle difference changes everything. Derek, 58, from Denver, learned this the hard way. After years of being the nice guy, always available and always disappointed, he started setting boundaries. He stopped canceling workouts to meet up. He replied when it made sense, not instantly. Within weeks, he noticed a shift. Women started leaning in. One woman even admitted, I kept thinking about you more when you stopped being everywhere. When you act like your time is valuable, it becomes attractive. When you don't chase, she gets curious. When you stop filling in every silence, she starts wondering what you're thinking. So ask yourself, am I leading with value or availability? Am I standing still or am I orbiting around her? And if you've ever pulled back your attention and suddenly she showed up more, drop a comment below and say, I felt the shift. What happens when she starts fearing she might lose you? That's where the obsession begins. Stay with me. Number 2, trigger her fear of losing you. Here's what most men never realize. The moment she knows you'll stay no matter how she treats you, she stops feeling anything. Why? Because certainty kills tension, and tension fuels desire. It's not about making her feel unsafe. It's about reminding her that your presence is earned, not guaranteed. When a woman knows you have standards, that you're willing to walk if she crosses a line, she respects you more and desires you more. Think about it. If you're always available, always agreeing, always forgiving, even when she cancels last minute, shows up late, or plays hot and cold, what message are you sending? That no matter what, she has you. That you're afraid to lose her. But obsession doesn't come from being someone's safe option. It comes from being someone she fears losing. Stoic philosophy helps here. The Stoics believed in emotional independence, not coldness, but strength. As Epictetus said, he who craves nothing, lacks nothing. When you hold your own value above her approval, you shift the power dynamic. You become the source, not the seeker. So how do you trigger that fear of loss? You mirror her energy. You don't punish, you respond. If she pulls back, you don't chase, you match it. If she cancels, you don't guilt trip, you go silent and move on with your day. If she plays games, you disengage, quietly, calmly, with no drama. This isn't about emotional manipulation. It's about showing her you're not afraid of distance, that you value yourself enough to step back instead of beg for scraps. This is what most men struggle with. They think if they push back, she'll leave. But here's the twist. The moment she realizes she can lose you, she starts fighting to keep you. That's when she leans in. That's when she shows effort. That's when the dynamic flips. And you don't have to say it out loud. You don't need to warn her, if you keep doing this, I'll walk. That's weak. That's negotiation. Instead, you show it. Through your actions, your silence, your focus. You stop proving yourself, and you start expecting energy that matches yours. Because here's the truth. Women don't obsess over men who beg. They obsess over men who walk away quietly and leave a void behind. And that void, that silence, it echoes. It makes her think. It forces her to ask questions she didn't ask before. Did I push too far? Why isn't he reacting? Is he seeing someone else? And just like that, you've shifted the dynamic from chaser to chooser. But this only works if it comes from strength, not insecurity. You don't pull away to punish. You pull away because you can. Because you're not afraid to be alone. Because you're not trying to control her, you're just not willing to be controlled. So ask yourself this. Am I staying in situations where I'm not being respected just because I'm scared she'll walk away? If the answer is yes, you've already lost your power. But if you're ready to reclaim it, if you're ready to let her feel the cost of losing you, then you're no longer just an option. You become the one she can't stop thinking about. Have you ever stepped back and seen her energy shift fast? Drop a comment. I chose myself. And now, let's talk about control, not over her, but over the pace of the connection, because that's where real power lives. Number 3. Control the pace. Most men lose the game before it even begins because they give up the steering wheel. They let her decide when things move forward, how fast, how deep, and how serious it becomes. And by doing that, they silently give away their power. Let's be honest, when you're excited about a woman, it's easy to speed things up. You feel the spark, the attention, the thrill, and suddenly you're texting every day, making time constantly, asking where things are going. But here's the truth. The person who controls the pace controls the frame. And if she feels like she's the one setting all the terms, she starts to view you as someone who just follows her lead. Now let's talk about Alex, 49, from Seattle. After a divorce and 2 years of dating on and off, he met Melissa, 46, through a networking event. The chemistry was strong, and within days he was hooked. He started calling every night, planning weekends together, bringing up exclusivity just 2 weeks in. Melissa, she pulled back, said she needed space. Alex was confused, hurt, angry, but he didn't see the problem. He'd moved too fast, faster than her attraction could keep up. You see, when a man rushes the connection, he removes all tension, no mystery, no build-up, no anticipation. It's like skipping to the end of a movie. You ruin the journey. Women need emotional pacing. They need time to want more. If you flood her with availability, with effort, with attention before she's even invested, she'll lose interest fast. This isn't just psychology, it's self-mastery. Stoicism teaches restraint, not suppression, but discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." And in relationships, that calm shows up as pacing. You're not in a rush. You don't need constant validation. You're present, but you're not pressing. The man who paces well signals value. He's not afraid of taking time. He understands that real connection is built, not forced. He's not trying to lock her in. He lets her feel the contrast between space and presence. That contrast is powerful. And here's something most men overlook. When you control the pace, you stay grounded. Rushing creates anxiety. It leads to overthinking, overgiving, and overinvesting. But when you slow down, you can actually see her more clearly. You notice how she responds. You spot red flags. You stay in control of your emotional state. Alex learned this later. When he met someone new, he did it differently. He limited his availability, focused on his goals, let conversations breathe. He shared parts of himself, not all. And by week 3, she was the one asking, "Where do you see this going?" He didn't force anything. He let the connection build, and it worked. Another reason pacing works, it makes your attention mean something. When you give it too freely, it loses impact. But when a woman has to earn each step forward, when she has to wonder what's next, that's when she becomes emotionally engaged. So if you're the guy who rushes in fast, hoping to seal the deal before she changes her mind, stop. That fear-based energy kills attraction. Let her come to you. Let her miss you between interactions. Let her experience the build-up. Ask yourself, am I pacing this connection like a man who trusts his value, or like a man trying to rush to safety? Control the pace, and you control the pull. Let her catch up to your energy, not the other way around. If you've ever slowed things down and watched her lean in harder, drop a comment. I lead calmly. And now let's talk about what happens when you shift your validation from automatic approval to something she has to earn. Number 4, make her chase your validation. Most men give away their validation like candy too soon, too easily, too often. You're so beautiful. I've never met anyone like you. You're perfect. They say it on the first date, the second text, before she's even shown any real effort. And while it may feel sincere, here's the cold truth. When validation is unearned, it's worthless. Why? Because humans don't crave what's given freely. We crave what we earn, what we struggle to gain, what we have to prove we deserve. If you're constantly complimenting her, praising her, affirming her before she's truly invested, you're not building connection, you're building comfort. And comfort, without desire, leads straight to indifference. This is where most nice guys fail. They think giving more validation will secure her interest. But the opposite is true. When she doesn't have to work for your attention, she starts to lose interest. She stops trying. She assumes she already has you. Game over. Now think about the men she chases. They're not cold, they're not rude, but their validation is rare and real. When they compliment her, it means something. Why? Because she had to earn it. Stoicism teaches us to be deliberate in our actions and expressions. Epictetus wrote, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." What does that mean here? It means you don't rush to prove your value or your attraction. You stay grounded in who you are, even if it means being misunderstood for a while. When you stop throwing out compliments to seek approval, you shift everything. You become the man who doesn't need to please, the man who values his words, the man whose praise matters because it's not handed out like a participation trophy. Here's the trick: don't withhold all compliments. That's not power, it's pettiness. Instead, slow them down. Make them earned. Wait until she shows something real. Wait until she contributes, invests, surprises you. Then, when you say, "That was amazing," it lands, it sticks, it pulls. And more importantly, let her chase your approval. Let her wonder, does he think I'm enough? Let her work to impress you. This is emotional polarity. You're not chasing her validation, you're making her earn yours. That subtle shift changes everything. It doesn't matter if she's used to attention. If she's attractive, she's used to men giving compliments without hesitation. But you break the pattern. You're different. You're unmoved by looks alone. You want more substance, effort, energy, and that makes you unforgettable. When a woman feels she has to earn your praise, she stays engaged, she stays curious, she starts putting in the effort not out of obligation, but out of desire. So stop leading with praise, start observing, start assessing. Let your validation be the reward, not the bait. Ask yourself, am I giving her attention because she earned it, or because I'm afraid to lose her? The Stoic man remains centered. He doesn't flatter to gain favor. He speaks truth with restraint. And when he finally says, "You impressed me today," she feels it. If you've ever pulled back your praise and saw her lean in harder, drop a comment below. I held the frame. How? And next, we're going to talk about something subtle but incredibly powerful. What you say is one thing, but what she sees when you don't say anything, that's where the obsession starts. Number 5. Stay a mystery. Let's make one thing clear. Attraction doesn't live in the known, it lives in the unknown. The more a woman knows about you too soon, the faster her imagination shuts off. And when her imagination shuts off, so does her emotional investment. But when you stay a little unpredictable, when you hold just enough back, when you don't overshare, her curiosity stays alive. She starts thinking about you, wondering what you're doing, wondering what you're thinking. That's where obsession grows. Take Jeff, 52, from Arizona. He's a construction manager, quiet guy, steady, no flashy personality. But every time he dated, he felt the need to prove himself. On the first few dates, he'd unload everything. His career story, his divorce, his childhood trauma, even his plans for the future. He thought it would show vulnerability. But what it really did, it gave women nothing to wonder about, nothing to earn. Then came Rachel, 47. Jeff decided to do things differently. When she asked about his past, he answered calmly, but didn't go deep. When she asked what he did for fun, he smiled and said, "You'll find out." Instead of flooding her with facts, he created room for questions, room for intrigue. And suddenly Rachel was calling more, texting more, leaning in harder. Because Jeff had become a mystery she wanted to solve. Mystery isn't about being evasive or dishonest. It's about restraint. It's about offering layers. Layers she has to peel back over time. Layers she has to earn access to. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When your inner world is rich, full of focus, values, purpose, but you don't broadcast it all at once, people feel it. Women especially. They feel that you're not empty, that you've got depth, and they want to see more. This is where most men mess up. They think the more open they are, the faster a connection will form. But connection doesn't come from dumping your entire life story. It comes from creating space for her to lean in, for her to explore, for her to earn the next layer. So, how do you stay a mystery? You keep your answers clear but short. You let her ask the next question. You don't post your whole life online. You don't feel the need to fill every silence. And you don't reveal all your feelings right away. You let her sit in the unknown. And that unknown, it's powerful. When she leaves a conversation with you and still has questions, that's when she thinks about you at night. When her friends ask, "So what's he like?" and she can't fully explain, that's when she becomes curious. Curiosity creates emotional gravity. It keeps her mentally orbiting around you. And remember, this only works if you actually have a life worth wondering about. If your mystery is just a lack of substance, it falls flat. But if you've got passions, projects, peace of mind, and you don't flash it all at once, that's magnetic. So ask yourself, am I giving her mystery, or just giving her everything too soon? If you've ever held something back and watched her chase harder, drop a comment, "I protect my depth." Now, here's where things shift. What if your absence, your silence, your space made her want you even more? That's what we're talking about next. Number 6, make her feel replaceable. This one sounds harsh, but it's one of the most powerful mindset shifts a man can make. Because here's what women can feel instantly. If you think she's the prize, she'll start acting like the judge. But if you carry yourself like you're the standard, not in arrogance, but in quiet certainty, she starts to see your value differently. She starts to chase. Most men pedestalize the woman they're attracted to. They orbit her, prioritize her, overlook disrespect, excuse the bare minimum. All because they've convinced themselves that she's special, that this kind of connection is rare, and if they lose her, they won't find it again. That mindset, it kills all mystery, all polarity, all power. The Stoics had a word for this kind of fear: attachment. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." And freedom, in this context, means knowing that no matter who comes or goes from your life, you stay centered. You don't crumble. You don't beg. You move forward, because your worth was never tied to their presence in the first place. So how do you make her feel replaceable without saying a word? It's in the way you respond to her pulling away. You don't react. You don't chase. You give space, and you fill it with your own life, your own purpose, your own priorities. It's in the way you handle disrespect. A passive man will tolerate it, hoping things get better. But a man who values himself, he disengages, he walks, quietly, confidently. It's also in the way you treat other women with respect, with charm, with ease. Not to make her jealous, but to subtly remind her, you have options. You don't need her. You're choosing her for now. And make no mistake, when a woman senses that she could lose you, something flips. She starts asking herself different questions. Does he really need me? Would he replace me? Am I matching his energy? Those questions create emotional pull, because what's scarce becomes valuable. What's secure becomes background noise. You're not trying to hurt her. You're not playing games. You're just not afraid to lose her. That mindset, when real, not acted, is magnetic. She feels it, and she'll test it. She'll pull back just to see what you do. And when you stay calm, grounded, unaffected, she feels the shift. You're no longer chasing. You're choosing. You're no longer afraid of rejection. You're focused on alignment. You're no longer obsessed with her. You're obsessed with your standards. When she sees that, she adjusts or exits. Because here's the secret. When a woman knows she's replaceable, she works harder to be irreplaceable. That's not cruelty. That's psychology. So ask yourself, am I acting like she's the prize, or am I living like I am? If you've ever walked away from a situation that didn't meet your value, drop a comment. I never settle. And next, let's flip the script. Because it's not just what you avoid, it's what you radiate. We're going to talk about masculine energy, and why that's what she craves most. Number 7. Speak with silence. Sometimes the most powerful message is the one you don't say. Silence makes people uncomfortable, especially in dating. Most guys rush to fill the gaps. They over-explain, over-apologize, over-pursue just to avoid that quiet space. But when a man is comfortable in silence, he owns the frame. Let's take a real example. Daniel, 56, from Michigan, was dating a woman named Claire, 50. They had been seeing each other casually for a few weeks. One night, she didn't respond to his text for 2 days. When she finally did, it was short, cold, distant. Daniel's instinct: he wanted to call, ask what was wrong, send a long message. Hey, are we okay? But he didn't. Instead, he said nothing for 3 days. Then Claire texted again. Are you upset? He replied, number, just giving you space. That's it. No drama, no begging, just stillness. And you know what happened? Claire started initiating more. She leaned in. She sensed his grounded energy, and it drew her in like gravity. That's the power of silence. You see, silence creates space. Space for curiosity, space for reflection, space for her to miss you. The average guy thinks more words equals more clarity, but often more words equals less impact. Stoic wisdom reminds us of this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." In dating, the modern translation might be, stop trying to convince her of your worth. Let your energy prove it. When you speak less, when you're intentional with your words, when you allow silence to exist, you shift the energy. You stop chasing her attention, and instead you create tension. And that tension is the birthplace of attraction. This doesn't mean being cold or distant for no reason. It means knowing when not to react, when not to explain, when not to try and fix her emotions. Let's say she tests you, says something provocative to get a rise out of you. Most guys respond with defensiveness or justification. But a man who's emotionally strong, he just pauses. Lets her sit with her own reaction. That pause speaks volumes. It says, I don't argue for my worth. Women notice this. They notice when a man doesn't flinch, when he lets things breathe, when he doesn't rush to manage her moods. That calm presence, it's rare, and it's extremely attractive. Daniel learned that his silence didn't make him weak, it made him powerful. He realized that sometimes backing off is stronger than leaning in, that not replying immediately, not explaining every thought, not always doing something, creates room for her to feel the consequences of her actions. Because that's the truth. If she never has to feel your absence, she'll never value your presence. So ask yourself when something feels off. Do I speak from insecurity, or do I let my silence set the tone? If you've ever let silence speak for you, and it changed the energy, drop a comment. I stay grounded. And next, we're going deeper. Because silence creates space, but the real shift happens when you decide who gets rewarded inside that space, and why. Number 8. Reward only real effort. There's a difference between attention and effort. And here's where most men slip. They reward attention like it's commitment. A woman replies to a text, likes a photo, flirts a little. Suddenly, he's hooked. He invests, compliments, plan date, gives energy, all because she gave him a hint of interest. But here's the truth. Interest without effort is worthless. And if you reward low effort, you'll always receive it. Women test men not with words, but with how little they can give and still get something back. If she barely texts, but you double text. If she cancels plans and you reschedule. If she doesn't ask about you, but you still pour your heart out, you're showing her something clear. She doesn't need to try. You'll be there anyway. Stoicism flips that dynamic. Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. And what does that look like here? It means your actions teach her how to treat you. You don't demand better treatment, you only reward it when it shows up. You're not cold, you're not punishing, you're simply aligned with your standards. When a woman makes a real effort, plans time with you, shows consistent interest, invests emotionally, you respond, you appreciate, you match it. But when she offers crumbs, you don't chase, you don't lean in harder, you fall back. Let her step up or step out. Because here's the truth. If you don't teach her that your time is valuable, she'll assume it's cheap. This isn't about playing games. It's about training her subconscious. Human psychology works like this. We value what we work for. If she hasn't done anything to earn your energy, and you give it freely, she won't respect it. But if she has to show up, stay consistent, lean in, you create emotional buy-in. You're not the guy who rewards flirting. You reward effort. You reward intentionality. And that is rare. It also shows emotional self-control. You don't need her attention to feel validated. You don't hand out access just because she's attractive. You operate from a deeper place, a place of self-respect. That's what makes her feel something different, because most men reward too soon, too much. But you move with precision. Now think about this. What kind of man does a woman respect more, the one who gives everything up front, or the one who responds only when she shows up with energy, clarity, and consistency? Exactly. So how do you apply this? Watch her patterns, not her words. Match her investment, no more, no less. And stay willing to walk when it drops below your standard. That's when she starts to wonder, why isn't he chasing me? That's when she thinks, what do I need to do to get him to lean in? And that question is where obsession begins. So ask yourself, am I giving my attention to potential or to proven effort? If you've ever pulled back your energy until it was earned, drop a comment. I move with purpose. And up next, we're going to talk about the foundation that ties it all together. Because if you get this piece wrong, none of the others will stick. Get ready. Number 9. Let her imagine the rest. Here's one of the most overlooked tools in attraction. You don't need to say everything. In fact, you shouldn't. When it comes to creating obsession, silence isn't just power, suggestion is power. The moment you stop giving her all the answers, and instead leave her wondering, she starts imagining. And in her imagination, you become whatever excites her most. Let's take Michael, 48, from Denver. Successful guy, owned a small engineering firm, recently divorced. He started dating Emily, 45, a creative director. On their third date, she asked about his previous relationships. Michael didn't dodge the question, but he didn't offer a full play-by-play either. He smiled and said, "Let's just say I learned a lot the hard way." That one sentence, it told her he had depth, pain, growth, but left enough unsaid for her curiosity to light up. She leaned in, asked more questions, and every time he gave just a little and stopped short of full disclosure, she imagined the rest. And that imagination made her invested. Because here's the truth, when you explain everything, you kill mystery. But when she fills in the blanks, she personalizes the story. She becomes emotionally involved, and the more involved she feels, the more intense her connection becomes. This works in every layer of interaction. You don't have to spell out how you feel. A glance, a pause, a change in tone says more than a paragraph. You don't have to overshare your plans. Say, "I've got something to handle tomorrow," and let her wonder what it is. You don't have to clarify every intention. Let her sit in the uncertainty. It activates her. Even in physical intimacy, this principle holds. You don't need to say or do everything up front. Sometimes, suggestion and restraint are far more powerful than direct expression. When you leave space for her imagination, she fills it with desire. And that's not manipulation, it's respect for human psychology. Why? Because imagination is limitless, it's personal, it's emotional, and it's addicting. The Stoics understood this dynamic in a different way. Seneca wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." He was talking about fear. But the same principle applies to desire. We often feel more in the mind than in the moment. And that mental build-up, it's what makes something unforgettable. This is why so many relationships start strong and fade fast. Everything gets said, everything gets done. There's no mental space left to create anticipation. But when you master the art of subtlety, when you know what not to say, you stay in her mind far longer than any guy who lays it all out on the table. So here's how to apply this. Tell less than you want to. Say things with a smirk instead of an explanation. Hold a little bit back, especially when you know it'll make her lean in. Let silence do some of the heavy lifting. Another tip, don't post everything. Don't document your life like a reality show. If she knows your every move, she doesn't need to reach out. But when she's unsure, when there's just enough mystery to wonder what you're thinking, doing, planning, you live rent-free in her head. Because the man who leaves space for her imagination becomes the one she can't stop thinking about. If you've ever said less and felt the energy shift, drop a comment. I speak in silence. And now, we've come full circle. The final piece isn't about what you say or don't say. It's about who you are beneath it all. Next, we're wrapping this up with the truth that makes every other strategy actually work. Number 10. Walk away with power. Let's be honest, most men don't walk away. They wait. They cling. They chase after closure, clarity, or one last chance to change her mind. And that's when they lose themselves. But here's the truth no one likes to admit. The moment you hesitate to walk away, you've already given up your power. Walking away isn't about giving up. It's about knowing you're enough, with or without her. It's about understanding that your value doesn't come from how much she likes you, but how much you respect yourself. There's a kind of silence that speaks louder than words. And the silence that comes after you've chosen yourself, that's the kind she feels. Women don't become obsessed with men who beg. They become obsessed with men who disappear on purpose because they have standards. Stoicism teaches us that we should never cling to what we cannot control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." So when she pulls away, when she tests you, when she tries to see if she still owns your attention, your reaction defines everything. You don't argue. You don't explain. You don't plead. You simply vanish calmly, cleanly, confidently, because you know something she doesn't. The man who walks away without needing to prove anything is the man she never forgets. Let's paint the picture. You've been dating for a few weeks. She suddenly goes cold. Her replies slow down. The warmth is gone. Most guys double down, more texts, more energy, more vulnerability. You send nothing. You shift your focus back to your life. You go to the gym, get your sleep right, chase your own goals again. Not to get her back, but because you never stopped being your own center. And that energy, that self-respect, she feels it. Even if she doesn't say it out loud, she senses your distance. She notices your absence. And if there was any real connection, that absence starts to echo louder than any word you could have said. Sometimes, the most seductive thing you can do is to stop showing up. Not out of anger, not out of resentment, but because you're aligned with something higher than approval, you're aligned with principle. See, the final test of masculine presence isn't how much you can give. It's whether you know when to stop giving. Walking away with power means you trust your value. You don't stay in situations where effort isn't matched. You don't beg someone to see what's already obvious. You know who you are. And maybe she never comes back. Maybe she does. That's not the point. The point is this. You are not here to convince anyone to want you. You are here to become so grounded, so composed, so stoic, that whether she stays or leaves, your identity never wavers. That is the ultimate power. That is the man she remembers. And that is the kind of man who makes any woman obsess, because she knows she can't control him. So walk away when it's time. Not as a tactic, but as a truth. Not to make her chase, but because you never needed to chase her. That's not just how you win. That's how you live with power, peace, and purpose. That's it. Now you know it's not about tricks or fake confidence. It's about becoming the kind of man who naturally draws women in, because you know your value. You live with purpose, and you move with intention. Each move we talked about today isn't just about making her obsessed with you. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need obsession to feel complete. That's what makes you powerful. If this video gave you clarity or even just one insight, make sure you subscribe. This channel's for men who think deeper, live stronger, and lead with discipline. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.